Welcome to another edition of One More Light with me, Val Kleinhans. Thank you so much for joining me for another week. This episode in particular is really, really fun for me because y'all know I got another music related podcast up in here. I am a very big music fan, and I've always been a believer that music can help us navigate those tough moments with our mental health. And I got somebody with me who's going to prove this and talk a little bit about her own experience. SOUNDR is in the building. SOUNDR, I am so glad that you're here. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know her, she's an artist who does use her music to advocate for mental health, break the stigma when it comes to discussing the subject, all that good stuff. Let's start from the very beginning. When did your mental health journey begin?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I think really I was made aware of the fact that mental health existed, I guess.
Mm.
In Warped Tour when I was a teenager when I saw To Write Love in Our Arms booths.
Oh,
And
yes. Super
yeah, the
important.
t-shirts, the super cool graphic t-shirts. And the people that were there actively talking to teenagers and musicians and people that were there about mental health. And that was the first time that I kind of was like, maybe feeling this way and feeling sad and upset quite frequently doesn't have to be the norm. But it wasn't until really the beginning of the pandemic that I actually dove into starting to heal things. I've had this kind of thought in the back of my mind since Warped Tour, since those days of like, maybe I don't want to feel like this, maybe there's a way out of it. But it wasn't until 2021-ish that I actually found a therapist that does EMDR that helped me start working through some of those things. I've done like speech or talk therapy, cognitive therapy, and stuff like that previously. I've read books, I've done like the meditation, the apps, the affirmations, and stuff like that. And really, what was the turning point for me was starting with EMDR.
Okay, yeah, total amount of follow-up questions just buzzing through my brain right
Yeah,
now.
let's do it.
So, because back in the day, I mean, I went to World War II. We're
Yeah.
probably pretty close in age. I remember it, and I remember those lines for that particular booth being pretty damn long.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that, I mean, it's kind of sad when you put it that way, but it's also not because it was always my hope that people would look at that, see that line, and go, "Oh, I'm not alone." Did you end up feeling that way when you saw
Absolutely.
that too?
Absolutely. And that is so much what has inspired me to make mental health advocacy such a huge part of my project was seeing the impact that they have had over the years. And not only in just like the raising awareness and having those conversations real time, but the impact that they've had in actually providing mental health care for people when it is so inaccessible. So those things that we're doing, those conversations we're having, the shirts we're wearing, I'm actually wearing one of their hoodies right now too. They're actually going to benefit. It's not just, you know, kind of like the buzzword things. It's like, oh, people
Right.
actually care about this. This is something we actually should care about deeply.
Yeah, it's not just talk. I want to learn more
Yeah.
about EDMR too. What is that?
So EMDR is
EMDR. Got
a yeah, I actually posted that on my story completely backwards today. That was so funny.
it.
It's like typo, my bad. I promise I have been doing this for a while. It's fine. Um,
Yes.
so it's a therapy that I'm gonna butcher the science side of it, but it activates different parts of your brain at the same time. So before you start with EMDR, your therapist kind of helps you reach a baseline of stability mental health wise. So for me, I was struggling really heavily with anxiety, suicidal ideation, depression. And so she helped me reach kind of like a stable baseline. And then when you dive into EMDR, you kind of pick um, memories and subjects that were traumatizing to you that have kind of
Mm.
caused a ripple effect forward in your internal beliefs and beliefs about the world around you and relationships and things like that. And then you take the tools that you've learned now, and I call it kind of like time travel because it's like me now gets to go back to me then and decide how I want to feel about this thing. And it actually
Oh.
helps you rewrite the neural pathways so that you decide how you feel about this going forward. And it's actually a pretty miraculous thing. I thought there's no way. It's like, this is like friggin' magic, science, whatever. There's no
What
way.
is this sorcery? Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't.
exactly. And
But it's literally
yeah,
healing your inner child in a
it
cognitive
is.
manner.
It so much is. It so much is. And it's so cathartic too because it's you doing it. It's not like I had this impression that it's gonna be like hypnosis or something like that, where it's like, oh, this
Yeah.
person's gonna jump in my brain and suddenly I'm not gonna be myself anymore or something like that. but it's literally you going back to those wounded spaces and being like, look, we're okay. We are deserving of love. We are deserving of happiness and success and all of these things and friendships and whatever,
Mhm.
because you can go back with the tools that you learn real time. It is not the easiest thing. I will say that it is quite exhausting. And obviously, with
Yeah.
any in depth therapy that you're going to go into, it takes a lot of intention and attention and time as well.
Yeah, I'm sure it's overwhelming, and I'm sure that even just emotionally, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Even though you're doing something good for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you're just like, I just went for a ride. And I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. And physically too. I mean, our physical bodies are so heavily connected to our mental, emotional bodies too. So like after EMDR, I sometimes am like, I need the day. I need to just sit and just read and chill, which I think is also another part of it. Is like we talk about these mental health journeys, which they are very labor intensive. Like it is this thing that
Mhm.
we're going to dive into and we're going to heal our inner child and we're going to dig up all these wounds and stuff. But it also comes with like, we need to sit down for a second. We need to balance it with let's be slow and still and take care of ourselves at the same time, not um, treat it like a destination, I guess, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
We forget that. We forget that. I mean, I don't care what job you have. I mean, a lot of us
Yeah.
feel chained to it where our life revolves around like our work schedule or whatever other responsibilities we have, whether there's a child, a parent, whatever involved. Any amount of responsibility just seems to be like an excuse for us to not take a minute for ourselves and to not take a minute
Absolutely.
for our own mental health care.
Yeah.
It's hard enough, but it's really so important, and that's why this is one of my favorite subjects in the world.
Yeah.
So
Me too.
we go from EMDR to
Yeah.
yeah to
Yes. To sit
EDM the
down.
music. Yeah, to
To
down and
EDM the music.
to EDM the music
Yeah.
because for those who don't know, you love music, you do
I
music. So
do. Yeah.
how does one connect to the other? How do we go from one to the other? How do we go from navigating our mental health to let me join this cutthroat industry that could fuck with it? Because that's what it does.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh man. So that I feel like those are two different paths we can go down with this conversation. One of like the music industry and working in the industry and how difficult it is to be in the entertainment industry in general, not just in music. But then the other side of it is like music in this sense of a communal thing and this unifying thing that it sounds so hokey and it sounds so cliche, but like when you're in a crowd of people there to experience this moment with you and that also love this music that you do and maybe are in similar places or even if they're not in similar places in life, like you're sharing this unifying moment together. I think that there is something very healing and cathartic about that. Even within the industry that I'm in or the genre that I'm in, it is very much like crazy energy in those shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. But it's still like this group of people that are there to just enjoy that moment. And I think that's a huge part of the mental health journey for me is learning how to be present and sit in that moment and actually enjoy them. Because when you have been through difficult things in your life, PTSD, depression, anxiety, whatever, it causes dissociation where you are removed from the moment.
Oh
So it
yeah.
takes a lot of healing and initiative and effort and getting yourself to a safe place internally so that you can be safe in being in the moment with people. And I think that it's just so beautiful to be able to share that. And especially on the other side of it, like what a freaking honor for the people that get
Yeah.
to play that music. Like I think musicians forget about that a lot of the time too, that it's not, I get to play out my cool music. Yeah, let's go. It's like, look at this thing that we have built. Look at this moment that we get to curate and share with these people. And then on the other side of it too, in writing that music that is more often than not very poignant, very vulnerable, real life stories, stuff like that, or stories from other people. And then being able to write it in my studio and I'm sitting here by myself with my plants and my dogs and whatever. And then translate that into going and being with these people real time. These thousands of people that I unfortunately don't know all their names. I don't know their stories, but like what an honor to be able to share that with people.
Yeah, if even for a few seconds, something
Yeah.
you did resonated with them. So it's more
Yeah.
about, for you, it's definitely about looking at the brighter side of what the possibilities are that come with being a musician and being a
Yeah.
recognized musician.
Yeah, for me, I think the number one thing is connection. Like that's what it's always been. I started writing music because I was a teenager that had no idea how to communicate their emotions and their needs and their
Mm.
inner world, you know? So I started writing poetry even before I started writing music, which now looking at a lot of that stuff, oh, it's not great, but it was the
But it goes
expression at
hand
the
in
time.
hand.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was the
it goes
expression
hand
at
in
the
hand.
time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you have to start somewhere, right? Um, but because of that, my inner world has been opened up. So like because I've been able to be vulnerable and be expressive and learn how to express that in music, which is an incredible career and I'm very grateful for. It's also very challenging, but because
Mhm.
of that, my inner world has opened up so much that now I get to go to these shows and perform at these shows, and afterward I get to meet these people and hug them and hear their stories and hold them while they're telling me these things, which sometimes can be a lot, but also the intention of this whole thing, of the whole Sounder project, is that connection. And again, as cliche as it might sound, for all of us to have a space where it's like, dang, so much stuff can be happening out there, and here is my space. Like here I am safe. This is for me. This is for the connection in the community.
That sentence just sounds like a hug. As soon as you said I hug people, I'm like, she's a hugger. Are you a hugger?
I it has taken me a long time to get there,
Oh,
but
okay.
I love them now. I love it. I It's just such a sweet thing, you know, just those little
Mm.
moments of connection. I feel like I'm a broken record, but that's such a thing for me, such a motif in my life, it's just connection with people.
Yeah. Well, it helps make you feel safe. So tell me
Yeah.
about the moment that you decide, huh, I've got this skill, which is music. I've got this skill, which is writing. Let me use this as a tool to be a mental health advocate. When did that realization come?
I think from the very beginning, honestly, I have dreamt of either partnering with or creating my own nonprofit someday, doing things like this where it's like consistently communicating and being open about mental health since I was 16, since I started actually learning how to write and compose and put the two together. But really, around the time that I started with therapy, we started the conversation, my therapist and I started the conversation of like, how do I take these things that I'm learning and allow myself to talk about them freely? Because beforehand, I feel like, not that it wasn't genuine, but I wasn't comfortable enough with like what I had been through and where I was at to actually vulnerably share that with the masses of people.
Yeah.
Um, and not that there's some things that I still think are okay to keep for yourself, you know, but as a broad statement to be able to share those things. So I think right when I started therapy, that was kind of the intention too, was like I want to heal myself so that in the process I can share this with other people, so that I
Mhm.
can kind of be an open book as I go through this and be like, look at these things that I'm experiencing. There is another side to this. There is hope on the other side of this. We can come out of this feeling okay, and we are deserving of all the things that we want and the love that we want and the life that we want. But yeah.
Yeah. Does it get easier to share your story the more times you do it?
Um, no, but being uncomfortable with it does. I don't know if that makes any
Mm.
sense. Like I am more okay being uncomfortable talking about these things than I was at the beginning.
Yeah, I do get what you mean because I mean it's not fun. I've had my own experiences with anxiety,
Yeah.
depression, and suicidal ideation, all the above. When you read off that list, I was like, chirp, chirp, chirp.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, but I do this because I'm like, no, it's not a fun subject to talk about. It's
It's
not,
not.
it's not, but I think about the families that that I have met or friends I've met, colleagues, peers that come up to me and tell me, thank you. We didn't have these conversations in my house. And
Yeah.
I go, oh, that's a whole other perspective that I wasn't even aware of because growing up, my family was pretty fairly open
Sure.
about being their own my dad and my mom their own treatments for anxiety and depression. They went through their whole thing.
Yeah.
And they were actually pretty transparent about it when we were growing up. So I never realized that having that conversation was abnormal. But it is for a
Yeah.
lot of people. And I forget that. So I was like, oh, I need to keep my mouth moving because not everybody does.
Yeah. Yeah, and you kind of forget that sometimes, and then people do say things like that where like, thank you for bringing this up. And I try to remember those moments when I'm doing something that I start to get self-conscious about when I'm going to speak about mental health stuff, or like with social media specifically, where it's just like overthink things so often with that
Yeah. Yeah.
medium, but it's like if the intention is there to be sharing this thing to help somebody not feel alone or to be like, hey, I'm right there with you, like we're in the same boat kind of thing. Somebody, it's gonna reach someone that needed to hear it that day. And even if it is just one person, that's amazing. Like that's an
Hmm.
incredible thing. What a gift to be able to share that with whoever may need to hear it. But it is interesting that I don't know, as many times as we talk about it, and I've talked about it at shows and different things and stuff like that too, there's still people that come up and are like, I don't have anybody to talk to about these things. I don't have
Hmm.
an outlet for this. I feel alone in this quite often. So to have podcasts and artists and human beings that are open to talking about these things, I think just needs to keep snowballing. Like we all need to open up these conversations in our homes, which I personally believe is where it starts. Is like our friendships and our homes and our families. Um,
Hmm.
because if we can create that safe space where we feel comfortable talking about it in those communities, then it just ripples outward. And hopefully we can make a bigger impact.
Yeah. Do your fans come to you and just say, "Hey, I'm glad you're here, and I want to talk with you. I feel like I can
Yeah.
share this with you." How does that make you
Yeah.
feel when that happens? That's got to feel good.
Man, it's such an honor. It's such a dual-sided thing because I do also have to set a boundary of I'm such an empathetic person and care so
Mm.
deeply about these
Hmm.
people that have given me a career, that listen to my music, that actually give a crap about what I'm doing and how I'm doing as a human, that I want to show up for them in this space and show them that they're not alone and they're cared for and that I love them. But I also have to have some kind of boundary to be able to meet in the middle of like, I want to show up for you and I'm here for you, but I'm also a human being myself and I can't take
Hmm.
on everybody else's stuff. So I do talk to people quite often about things and at shows and DMs and stuff like that, which is an incredible thing. But when it reaches a certain point where it's like, okay, I really think that these tools would be beneficial to seek out, I also have no problem in kind of pushing for that for them as well.
That's so helpful because a lot of people don't even know where to begin when it comes to treatment. They have no idea where to find certain resources. I tell people every time, if you don't know where to begin, begin with your freaking primary care doctor.
Yeah,
Honestly, because they if they and even if they don't have the answers, they at least have a network that
for
they can
you.
tap into. They can refer you exactly. And talking about, your boundaries and protecting yourself, I wondered if that's why the alias exists, Sounder exists, versus using your actual name. Is there any
Yeah.
truth to that, or was that just
Um,
unintentional or something that just happened?
I think probably both things. Sounder is just a cool moniker.
Yeah.
And it comes from the word sonder, which is kind of what we've been talking about, the connection, the awareness that everybody has their individual lives and we're all still living in
Yes.
this experience. So that was the intention from it. I do think it is also very healthy to have a separation there. Um, Not just in the mental health world of like, I need to be able to separate from this as a human being, but also in day-to-day life. Like, I need to be able to check out of Sounder, like I would be able to clock out from a job and
Right.
go be
Right.
with my family, go be with my friends, go hike, go to the gym, whatever. Sorry, my dog is losing his mind.
We don't. We love dogs. It's fine. My cat
He's
is
losing
my
it.
cat is laying next to me, but she doesn't care. She's like sleeping. She's like, I don't care what you're doing, mom. You do this all the
Yeah.
time. Whatever. Just
My
stop running
dog
your mouth.
is like on guard mode, I swear. We live on a second floor of an apartment and still he's like, someone's breaking in,
At
must
any
protect.
noise. At any noise. Wait, what kind of dog do you have?
He's a flat-coated retriever, so he looks like a golden,
Oh.
but he's all black.
Oh, okay. But he's
He's so
got a little
cool.
guard dog in him, apparently. Or
Just a
he's
little
like,
bit. Just a little bit. Just a little. Yeah, but he looks like a teddy bear. So it's like he sounds ferocious, and I'm sure on the other side of
yeah,
the door it's terrifying. And then you open it and he's like the sweetest thing, just wants to cuddle inside your lap. He's
he would
65
lick you to
pounds.
death.
Oh
He's
yeah.
65. Yeah.
He wants to sit in your lap like he's a lap dog, but he's
Hmm.
65 pounds.
And it's like, sir, we
Yep.
no.
Oh, he makes it happen too. It's great. He's a little character.
I love it. Dude, I'm sure pets are one of your favorite ways to stay mentally healthy as well. How
Yeah.
else, other than that, your own treatment that you're doing personally, how do you just in general stay mentally healthy in such a cutthroat industry? Because I did radio for 7.5 years. It's tough. It's tough. People with the egos out the wazoo. I mean, it's real. It is.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you bring that up too because I feel like there's such a curtain around the entertainment industry where it's like, oh, look at that glamorous thing, and it's like, yeah, a lot of the time the stuff that we do is cool. Like it's really
Yeah.
awesome, and don't get me wrong, I'm grateful, but it is also so hard on you physically, mentally, emotionally, every way it possibly can be.
Mm,
And actually, earlier this year, I was kind of to a point where I was like challenging what I wanted to do going forward because I do
mm,
dance music. I got hired to write and record vocals for dance music producers, but I also have my
mhm.
own project. And my project is all alternative based, so like early 2000s Linkin Park
Hell yeah.
Paramore, that kind of stuff. Um,
Right.
so I was like, man, I'm holding these two things. I don't know what to do. I can't have a life and do these things and all this stuff. And I was listening to, I think I actually watched a show on Netflix, this total side tangent. But the guy was helping financially coach these people into like purchasing homes and all of this stuff. And he was talking
Okay.
about that even though he's a millionaire, he does not own a home. He decided what
What?
yeah. So he decided what his ideal life looked like. And his
Okay.
ideal life looked like having the flexibility to up and leave when your lease is over in a year. And
Um,
that kind of shifted things for me and kind of started this like thought process going for me of what does my ideal life look like? And it does not look like me sitting at my computer for 18 hours a day by myself making music. And I think
mm,
that we're
mm.
taught that that's what it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be a slave to our art. We're supposed to grind away and sacrifice everything for our art. And I did that. I did that for a lot of years. And I think that maybe that's a path for some people, but that's definitely not a path for me. And it's definitely not a path for me to maintain stable mental health alongside having a music industry. Um, so I just kind of started peeling back everything, peeling back what I wanted out of life. I want to exercise, I want to be healthy, I want to have not set hours necessarily, but a life outside of music. And that
Yeah,
has
yeah.
helped me in a major, major way have a career and also be okay as a human being because all of the years that I've spent spending hours sacrificing friendships and relationships
Yeah.
and time with my family and just being human, like seeing the sunshine. Like some days you feel like you don't see the sun.
Yes.
I don't think that that is benefiting anybody. And the music that I can make when I am stable and content and happy is so much more meaningful to me. And the longevity of my career is longer because I can take care of me. So that's something that has become a non-negotiable. It's like I want to succeed, I want to have an amazing career, I want to tour, but also I need to be able to check out. I need to be able to have a life outside of this.
Oh
Totally a
my
long
God.
answer to that question, but yes.
Not at all. You're speaking, you do not understand. You were speaking to my soul because I went through a very similar thing when I was doing radio. And the big reason, maybe you've experienced this too. One of the reasons why I ultimately left the industry and just decided to do this for fun instead on my own time, in addition to a 9 to 5, was that, I put so much thought into it. I put so much passion. I put so much literal money and time into being on the radio that I took it very, 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 very seriously. So it was hard to handle when all these criticisms that I was getting were subjective and not constructive.
Yeah.
And it got to a point, and people forget that creatives go through this. Like you're, you want to be, you want to make people happy, and especially if
Yeah.
you're a pleaser. And when you take something as seriously as what it is that you're creating, it's very easy for that to be kind of fragile and broken,
Totally.
especially when somebody's giving you subjective criticism over constructive, which is
Totally.
something that you can, and that's
Do
what's
something with, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Because if it's not constructive, it's you're just sitting there going, okay, you
What do you
just
want
told
me
me
to
that
do
you
with
don't like
this?
something. Yeah. You
Yeah.
told me you don't like something and you want me to fix this, but you're not really giving me a guidebook as to how. You're not really giving me
Yeah.
that. That is what screwed with my head. And that's what landed me in the
Yeah.
outpatient. Like it
It's
did.
man, I really don't I said this earlier, but I really do think it's important to tear down that wall that exists between creatives or the creative or the
Mhm.
entertainment industry and the rest of the world, however you want to phrase it. Because that stuff is so detrimental to your
Oh,
brain.
it is.
And it's not just individual voices, which it is, individual voices is not only that, but it is the metrics. It is
Hmm.
these things that you are judged on, you are compared to others on. Um, and it's really toxic. And it's hard to continue to grow and push yourself to grow when those things are happening, when those criticisms are happening, or like for me the last couple or this year, I feel like, not even I feel like, I know that my numbers have been trending downward because I've been focusing on creating this other project. So
Oh.
instead of releasing as many sounder dance music songs, I've been focused on writing this other project. And I do have another alias now for EDM stuff. And that
Hmm.
project has started growing. So, like, logically, yeah, that makes sense, right? This is going to go down. But whatever, for me emotionally, seeing the sounder
Mm.
project kind of going down a little bit has
Hmm.
taken a lot of intentional space to be like, okay, this is why this is happening. Nobody hates you. Like, this is still good.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
you're not just lost in the ether. The things that you're doing have purpose and all of this stuff, but there's so many elements to the entertainment industry that kind of are looked past,
Hmm.
that don't come with the usual 9 to 5,
Hmm.
and that are
Yeah.
even more so, make it more so important to be able to check out and be like, I'm going home.
Yeah.
I'm closing the door to my studio. Like, I'm done for the day, you know?
Like, yeah, that's ultimately why I had to leave. And it took a lot. It took, I think, that outpatient program for me to really sit back and be away from that environment for a month and a half and go, ooh, I don't know if I want this. I don't know.
And
Like,
that's
wait a
okay
second. This is
too.
not what I want for myself. Like, as a person, as a
Yeah,
person, I don't want to feel like I have to be on call 24/7. I don't
absolutely.
I don't want to sit through these air checks, which for anybody that doesn't know, it's like somebody's critiquing your audio resume. Like they're taking a tape of what you've done that particular hour on that particular day over the radio and just giving you their thoughts. And they
Oh,
tell you
man.
don't take it too seriously, but when you're putting that much effort into what you're creating, it's hard not to. So
Absolutely.
it's a lot at once. And but
Yeah. I
just
think too, I think that's okay. I
yeah,
think it's okay to have had this career doing this thing that you loved and deciding that it doesn't suit you anymore. It doesn't
right.
suit your ideal life. It doesn't suit your mental health goals or your health goals, whatever it may be. Like, I think
Hmm.
that's another part of this too, is being able to separate us as a human and our worth as humans from the person, from the
Hmm.
artist, from whatever career that you have, because we have so much more worth than that just innately, and we have
Yes.
so many more interesting things about us than what we do for a living, even if it is something
Yes.
really cool.
Right.
um that being able to dive into being comfortable with yourself outside
Hmm.
of that, I think, starts a ripple effect forward of believing in self-worth as well,
Yeah. And a
outside of
key,
anything else.
right. A key to staying mentally healthy, honestly, is being like, let's check in with the person that's inside here. Like,
Yeah,
let's
time
how,
out, time out.
take a tea.
Yeah,
How is
seriously.
this person doing? You appear to be doing very well. I'm so excited for all the new stuff that's coming. We got little bits and
You.
teasers on Instagram. Talk to me about
Yeah.
what you're excited for moving forward.
A lot of the same things, just in a bigger scale. A lot of more initiatives with mental health care, with mental health awareness, things like that. Trying to just keep that conversation open and bring it into this project as much as possible. We are working towards an album next year, hopefully, of
Yes.
all of
Yay.
the alternative stuff. It has been a long time coming. I know that's, again, a cliche thing to say, but it has actually been in works for a long time. The transition from dance music to alternative is a little bit tricky, but
Mm.
still working on the dance music stuff. EDM, I have a new alias called Luthien, and that project is really fun for all the D&D nerds out there. There's a lot of lore based around Luthien.
Nice.
Um, she is actually based off of one of my D&D characters, so that's been pretty fun
So she's
to
a
kind of.
badass.
Yeah. Oh, she
I
is.
mean,
She's a little elf, half vampire elf.
oh, so she's biting
Yeah.
orcs. So she's
Oh, she
whoa,
is.
taking
She
heads.
is.
Okay.
She is. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to have different mediums too, but just tons of music, tons more music, and a lot more conversations like this to come, I hope.
Wonderful. Me too. I can't wait to see it all. Sounder, I am so grateful for your time. Thank you for your nuggets of wisdom and for getting vulnerable today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Have a good one.